This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, My Fair Lady in Space!
Hello everyone, my name is Gepwin and welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review critique show that's putting the humanities back into science fiction. I am joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Isix.
Hi.
And this week was bad, not great. I know that there's a more misogynist episode coming up, so I don't want to call it the most misogynist thing, but it's one of the most misogynist ones we've seen so far.
But we'll get into that, the why of that, once we actually get into the episode here. But it suffice to say, it's like, jeepers, guys. Really?
So this episode is called Elaan of Troyius.
Rhymes with Helen of Troy, kind of.
It does. I don't know why it does, because it's not.
I'm not kicking off any Trojan Wars here. It just, other stuff's happening.
It was written by John Meredith Lucas, who also wrote Patterns of Force, which was the Nazi episode.
Whoops.
They have one more thing coming up.
I believe they also directed this one.
Yes, written and directed by.
Which I believe is pretty rare for original series Star Trek.
As far as I've seen, I don't remember it being noted before, but I didn't look specifically. All right, we've only got a couple of guest stars that I'm going to list. We have 3 people who were doing guard duty, but they were difficult to track down, and they don't show up for a lot of the episodes. So the main people we have are France Nguyen is playing Elaan. She is a French actress and model who was very active around this time, but was actually pretty notable for later becoming a psychological counselor. She won a Woman of the Year award for counseling work, was in several Life magazine articles. Just basically after this, she became a very well-known psychological counselor, focusing on women who had gone through trauma.
Well, we'll get to that in the episode.
And Jay Robinson is playing Ambassador Petrie. He is an American actor who got his start in Broadway and stage productions. His first film role was as Emperor Caligula in the 1953 film The Robe, and later its sequel, Demetrius and the Gladiators.
Roman Emperor. He kind of looks, looks like a kind of spooky guy, which is kind of what a lot of Caligulas in film end up being like. So
yeah, I mean, he does look pretty stereotypically old movie Roman Emperor guy.
Yeah.
Because he was that.
Yes. We found our emperor. Okay, we've got 15 of them now, but we keep hiring new ones because it's cheaper.
All right, I guess we should jump in. I don't know how long this is going to be, and I don't know what we're going to talk about with it, but we may as well get started.
We're on a secret mission to the Telon ship system. We picked up an ambassador from Troyius, taking him to Elias. This is kind of boring. Why was it so secret?
Yes, the Enterprise has been ordered to the Telon system, which is a border system claimed by both the Federation and the Klingon Empire, with orders to take Ambassador Petrie of Troyius to their rival planet Elis.
Wait a moment. So we got a border dispute between the Federation and the Klingons, and the Federation has claimed this system, but they already have native people living here.
No one explains how this works. Yeah.
Okay.
The system is under Federation control, but the Klingons also claim it as their territory. But the people here, I guess, get no say.
Fair enough.
Kirk, McCoy, and Spock are on their way to the transporter to receive the Elosian delegation. According to Spock, the Elosians are vicious, arrogant people. But creepy old man McCoy goes, "Oh, but the Elosian women have a power over men that drives them wild." Ah.
We know you're horny, McCoy. Chill.
They join the ambassador, who's actually a proper alien with green skin and white hair and things.
Which I'm glad they have more actual aliens here. But it's pretty clear they're only doing it because the rest of the actors that from the other planet are not in full makeup. So got to differentiate them somehow.
Yeah, it's just to give you a little bit of easy to tell. But in earlier seasons, they would have just put them in different outfits. So
yes.
So they beam aboard 3 large men who secure the transporter room in preparation for their leader to beam aboard, and they all kneel, and they beam aboard their dolman, who is a woman in skimpy clothes.
Now, I will say that everyone, including the guards, look fabulous. And their outfits look nice and clean, so clean you could probably eat off of them, which is appropriate since they're made out of table mats. I'm not joking.
This that they just beamed aboard is Elaan, not of Troyius. She's on her way to Troyius. Yeah. Kirk, of course, sees the woman and decides that he's going to kneel too.
I guess it's to be polite. Eh?
They attempt to continue on pretty much normally, but Elaan and her guards are quite insistent on her being in charge and that they all need to pay deference to her, and she's like the all-powerful whatever ruler person. Kirk's a bit peeved about this, but the ambassador wants them to play along for the time being for the sake of their diplomatic mission.
Okay, that makes sense. This ambassador guy, he seems to know his stuff when it comes to dealing with these folks, right?
Yeah, for 5 minutes or so. Once away from Elaan, Petrie tells Kirk that they have this super secret plan that they're going to take Elaan back to Troyius for her to marry their leader. I don't know why this is so secret, because it's just a big old political marriage. There's going to be a frickin' ceremony and everything.
But it has to be secret, because I guess they're worried about Klingon spy on the ship or something?
But they never mention it before. I don't know. Anyway, this is going to bring peace between their 2 warring worlds, because they have sufficiently developed the technology to completely destroy each other. One would think once you're getting to the point of interplanetary war, you probably had that already, but all right.
Well, it's power projection, not just power. You have to put it on a rocket, too. That goes much further than just on the other side in your own world.
On the way, it is Petrie's job to teach her manners so that she can better integrate into their society. So he wants Kirk to go to Troyius very, very slowly.
Okay, then. So, if this was part of the whole secret mission thing, why are you now sort of surprising them with this here and also didn't try to handle this in a different way? Why do you have to delay the trip here, guy?
Yeah, you would think that they would know this, because if they're like, you have to go on a mission to ferry someone from this planet to this planet, which, at warp speeds is going to take y'all 5 minutes, but by the way, you're going to be out there for 2 months.
Congrats, your other missions, they're getting pushed off now. Don't worry about it.
But no sooner are they underway than Kirk receives news that Elaan is unhappy with her quarters, which are apparently Uhura's quarters that she gave up for the diplomats.
Yeah, saves on building new sets.
Kirk goes to play diplomat to, I don't know, everyone. He's bad at playing diplomat, but I guess he's in charge, so he has to. He arrives to find Elaan throwing things at Petrie, who was just trying to give her gifts from his people, including a prized royal necklace that he wants her to wear.
Oh, this necklace seems pretty spiffy, with all the crystals and things on it. I wonder if that's important.
Kirk tells Elaan to stop and tells her to act civilized. They use the word civilized a lot.
She's in a situation where she's generally unhappy with everything and probably doesn't want to be there. Maybe you can stop patronizing her.
No. Why would they do that?
Moving on.
Back outside, Petrie is very fed up, and he says he can't complete his mission because she's upset. He doesn't want his leader to marry this kind of person. Kirk goes, get over it. You're on a peace mission, you moron.
Yeah, so you go from being an ambassador and very diplomatic to just kind of an ass. All right.
This was kind of the only good part of the entire episode, is when he goes, you don't have to like each other, you just have to stop killing each other.
Yes. It's a good message, A
little while later, Spock has detected a strange reading that it might be a sensor ghost or some sort of echo thingy, but they're not sure, and their equipment seems to be working fine, so they got a mysterious something or other out there.
Wait a moment. I'm having flashbacks to Journey to Babel. Orions, it's got to be them, right?
Yeah, sure. More Orions. They'll definitely show up again. Elaan and her men go on a tour of engineering, and she's rude to Scotty, and Kirk tells her to stop being rude to Scotty, so she's rude to Kirk, and then Kirk tells her to stop being rude, and they'll just get, more fed up. This is the whole section where we're setting her up as an unpleasant person to be around, I guess.
Like, okay, you're just kind of rude to everybody, and yeah, so I guess we have to not like you now.
Then their sensor ghost moves in closer, and it turns out to be a Klingon ship.
Da 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 da.
And it started following them.
Just kind of hanging out, over there.
Also, apparently there's some sort of problem in Elaan's quarters, and Kirk shows up to find Petrie, who's been stabbed in the back.
Petrie, what did you do this time?
He lives, but he's in bad shape, and he's pretty mad at Kirk for suggesting that he keep trying to do his job.
Okay, Petrie, you might be bad at being an ambassador, but you still... the question... I guess the question I have is there anyone we could maybe replace you with? Are you the best your planet has to offer as far as, being nice to people and trying to do whatever your crazy mission is?
No wonder they're all at war.
Yep. Everyone's bad at this.
Chapel asks Petrie why, if the Elasian women are all mad and angry and ornery like this, do the men like them so much? It turns out that they have a chemical in their tears that forces men to be attracted to them if they get cried on.
So some sort of crazy pheromone or something, eh?
Yeah, something. Petrie wants to keep being all petulant and weird and doesn't want to complete his mission at all, so Kirk decides that now it's up to him.
Well, I guess there's a challenge that Kirk has to rise up to and overcome. He's going to teach this lady all the manners of a planet he's not from.
Kirk confronts Elaan about how she still needs to learn manners, and she goes, "No, I got rid of that issue." He says, "No, you killed the teacher. You didn't get rid of having to learn the thing."
You still have a responsibility to this peace process, just FYI.
So he's now going to teach her. And he tries to reason with her for a bit. Then, hey, you all are military people. You must understand discipline and orders and all those things.
So maybe we should do some of that, yeah.
And then she ignores him once and he goes, "Fine, you put your food on your plate and you drink out of a glass like a normal person." Nah.
Kirk doesn't have much patience here.
She throws a knife at him, but unfortunately misses.
Gotta work on that aim. You were able to hit Petrie, but I know Kirk's a higher level character, but come on.
Yeah, she really, really needs to aim better. Just the whole time. My girlfriend and I were watching this together, and Kirk is being such an ass. I'm like, stab him. Stab him. Stab him in the face.
This is your chance. Another missed opportunity.
We see one of the Elasian guards sneaking into engineering. He goes in and kills one of the engineers and starts to sabotage a thing.
Yeah, he hugs them to death or something.
Yeah, he touches him gently on the face and the guy just falls over dead.
Well, that was easy. Maybe we should conquer the Federation next.
So Kirk goes back to talk to Elaan again for her next manners lesson. She won't let him in, so Spock appears and stuns the guards outside of her room, commenting that he doesn't know how Kirk was able to predict that she wouldn't let him inside the room. And Kirk goes, "Well, Vulcan women are logical, and they're the only ones." Ha 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 ha.
Kirk, I think stabbing might be too good for you at this point.
So Kirk, who you will remember, has actually knocked out guards outside of the room to force his way in, is upset when Elaan doesn't want him there.
Oh, big surprise, Kirk.
She tries to stab him again. He unfortunately is able to grab her and restrain her and threatens to spank her.
This seems to get her attention, though.
She locks herself in the bathroom, yelling that she doesn't have anything to learn from him. And he goes, "Fine, well then I'll get someone else for you to learn things from." And then she very suddenly goes, "No, maybe I can learn something. Can you teach me how to get people to like me?" And then she starts crying, and Kirk wipes her tears away and gets all confused and kisses her. And then she asks about this spanking thing again.
Yep. I think she has the hots for you, Kirk.
They are later interrupted by her and Spock calling because there's a signal coming from inside engineering that's being sent to the Klingon ship.
Main screen turn on. It's you.
They send a security team as Kirk runs out of Elaan's room to meet them. There they find the dead guard and her guard. He's got a Klingon transmitter who refuses to tell them what he was up to until they threaten him with a Vulcan mind meld, and he grabs one of the guard's phasers and kills himself.
So I guess we'll never properly understand what his motivations were. Also, it's also kind of a violation to just be mind melded without your permission,
One would think so.
Yes.
Scotty gets to work figuring out what was going on and what this guy would have killed himself in order to protect. Back in Elaan's quarters, she explains to Kirk that the guard was in love with her and was mad that she's being sent on a political marriage instead of being able to marry him, and that's probably why he was upset and doing things.
So hopefully whatever he was up to isn't going to get everyone killed, because that would just get kind of counterproductive. So you sabotage the mission, but, keep the Enterprise from reaching its destination. So, the wedding, deadline, whatever, comes and passes, and they're not there for it. Yeah, that would kind of make sense.
She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to be at the wedding deadline anyway, because now she wants to be with Kirk. And she's like, hey, what if you use your ship to just destroy Troyius, and then we can take over the system and rule it together?
Well, that'd be pretty sweet, Kirk. You want to be a mass murderer with me? I know you have it in you, but I just want to have to ask it explicitly here.
Spock and McCoy interrupt. McCoy tells Kirk that about the tear thing. They start working on an antidote, but before they can do anything, the Klingons have moved in to attack.
Well, I guess we gotta fight the Klingons now?
Yep, all of a sudden. Kirk is about to jump to warp for the fight, but then Scotty informs him that he's just discovered the antimatter has been sabotaged, and if they go to warp, the ship's gonna explode. But without warp power, they don't stand a chance fighting the Klingons.
So they're kind of sitting ducks at this point.
But the Klingons just make a close pass and don't actually fire. They were just trying to force them to go to warp in order to trigger the bomb.
So the Klingons are obviously in on this evil plan.
But then Scotty informs them that not only is there a bomb, but all of their dilithium has been fused and there's no way to repair it, so they're basically SOL.
Well, it's been nice knowing you, everybody, but, Kirk here, go down with the ship, everyone else get in the escape pods.
Elaan has been following Kirk around, which he finds distracting, because she was just standing around on the bridge during all of this and things, so he sends her to sickbay to help McCoy. Once there, Petrie is still upset about his stabbing and starts going, oh, well, we're all gonna die anyway, why are you here? We're gonna die. How long do you think before we're gonna die, Doctor? We're gonna die.
Petrie, I think you're a little bit of a panic-prone person, aren't you?
Now the Klingons, having failed to destroy the ship in the way they wanted, order that they surrender to them unconditionally. Unconditional surrender. Give up the Enterprise, prepare to be boarded, etc.
All right, General Grant. Do we want to surrender? No, okay. We won't.
Kirk tries to stall, but there's really not much that he can do because they don't have enough power to even fire their weapons, so he just has to sit there until their shields run out.
So I guess we're just going to have to try to not die.
In sickbay, Petrie, I guess, decides to mend some fences because they're all going to die anyway, so he's like, here, we're all going to die. Will you just take the stupid necklace already?
And she's like, I guess.
She actually just says, all you ever talk about is duty, and then it cuts to the bridge where she shows up wearing the necklace.
Yes.
So I guess it worked.
I guess, yeah.
She came to the bridge because she wants to die next to Kirk, apparently.
Well, I guess if she does have the hots for him, that would kind of make sense, but yeah.
The Klingons begin firing because they have refused to surrender, but Spock picks up an energy reading coming from Elaan. They ask about this necklace she's wearing. She goes, it's made of junk rocks. It's basically worthless. These things are everywhere. They go, wait, this is dilithium.
Dun, dun, dun. That's why the Klingons want this system.
Yeah, because it's full of a rare but super common mineral, I guess.
Yes. It's very common on these couple planets here, but nowhere else.
They give Scotty the necklace. He's able to, just in time, shove it into the warp engine so that they get enough power to disable the Klingon ship and head for Troyius.
Whee! The day is saved, thanks to necklaces.
For some reason, Elaan is now calm, not angry, and willing to go down to the planet and do the political marriage, which is like, oh, Kirk, would you really let me go down and marry another man even though we love each other? He goes, yep, and then she leaves.
Because remember, Kirk only has one true love.
Yeah, later, McCoy has come up with an antidote for Kirk, but Spock goes, he doesn't need one. He already had the Enterprise.
Aww. Oh, and Elaan also gave Kirk her throwing dagger of +1.
That's true, yeah. She gave him a dagger that never shows up again.
The end!
This is so ridiculous. Like, I understand the married to your job trope, but I was talking to someone, like, every time they do this, on on this show, it's like he is literally physically in love with the ship. Like, he wants to have sex with the ship. Do you understand how much he wants to have sex with the ship? And he only sleeps with women because he's upset that he can't actually have sex with the ship.
He's really into very large ladies, the size of starships, specifically this one. Everyone has their interests, you know. And, you know, we should not kink shame Captain Kirk here, though it is a little unsettling how it manifests throughout the series.
It's just weird how, I don't know if it's a time thing or what, but it's often supposed to not be such an amazing, laudable thing for you to be married to your job to the point that you eschew all other human relationships.
Yeah, there are, I guess, certain ways people work where that is less of a problem, but at the end of the day, if that's all you got, then then you could potentially extract all human interactions from your life and still have your job, and that's a very lonely sort of existence and not really healthy on the mental side of things.
It's not healthy. I mean, I guess they were trying to enforce it because this was the era in which office work and non-physical labor was becoming very, very common in the US. So you had to do this whole, married to your job thing because you weren't actually producing anything of value. There's been a lot of talk about how when we switched over from like actual physical production that you did with your hands and had a product at the end of it to our more service-based kind of information age sort of working environment that we were transitioning to in the 60s and 70s, that your removal from the actual things that you were making and the possibility that you actually weren't at any level involved in making an actual product, you were just doing the job to do the job. You had to develop a certain amount of loyalty to the process of the job itself because you couldn't really take pride in your accomplishment the same way you could when you're making a product that you can look at.
I've completed these 58 accounts this last week. They're not physical things I can pick up and look at, so how do I feel about my labor? So maybe I'll change my perspective and make it that this is something I love 100% all the time by default, and there is nothing else in my life.
Yeah, you have to love it. And if you look at how things have been going over the last, 40 years or so, the idea that your job should just be the entirety of your life and you should have nothing going on outside of it is only getting stronger and stronger the further into the information age we get.
The last couple jobs I had, one of the things I'm sort of made clear is that when I leave the office here, I'm checking out. So don't be pestering me off hours unless it's like an emergency. And for the most part, they were willing to do that until near the end. So
I've had 2 or 3 friends who work in various office environments, and when they started, they left an hour or 2 after they were supposed to leave because they were finishing something up. And then the next day, their boss came to them and goes, "Do you know how bad it looks to everyone when you leave early?"
Pardon? We don't all have to suffer here,
Yes, you do. If you don't suffer, what's going to make the other people at the office suffer? If they see that you're leaving only an hour after your shift is over, what's that going to do to morale?
But maybe improve because other people are not staying super late all the time either. But morale and productivity are often conflated like that, but they're not the same thing.
No, they're not.
And in fact, sometimes having actual morale, aka you're not working your employees to death, is better for that whole productivity in the long run. Because you don't burn through your employees nearly as fast. And sure, on individual products or development times or whatever you're doing, it might be tempting to have that big crunch at the end, but afterwards everything slows down again and everyone's exhausted and it's almost impossible to get started on the next project. And so that starts lagging, and over time, either you have to replace all your employees or they kind of start leaving on their own. Because they're like, we're tired of this.
This is just a random anecdote that's not particularly connected to the philosophy of jobs nowadays. But I have a friend who showed us a memo that she got from her work right before she decided to leave that job for pretty obvious reasons that said employees should not eat food at their desks, talk loudly, or laugh. No laughing in the office.
Okay, I could kind of understand no eating at your desk. If you want to keep a certain look to the office and for clients coming in or whatever, so you don't have like people dropping ketchup or something like that on their desk or mucking up the rugs. Talking loudly, okay. That sometimes conversations still have to happen though, especially in a work environment where there's collaboration of any sort. Laughing? What the hell? Really?
Then we've moved more and more into this idea that when you're paying someone for their labor, you're not paying them for their labor because we've moved away from labor theory. You're paying them to physically be there, and you own them for the amount of time that you're paying them to be there. So if they spend any second of their day doing anything that is not actively working, they are stealing from you.
Yeah, that's kind of BS. And yeah, it's very much sort of a slave mentality as far as,
It is.
I guess a slaveholder mentality for the employers, where you stop being people and you become property. And if property is not being as productive as you demand it to be, then that property needs to be repaired.
We've abstracted away from, what work is for in this weird way now, like in modern time, that we've gotten to this place where instead of work being, I have a thing that needs to get done, so do that thing. And because, either it takes a lot of people to do or I don't have time to do it, I'm going to get someone else to do it, and then I'm going to pay them in order to do this thing so that I don't have to. Instead, we've gotten to this thing that's just, you have a job. You have to do your job, and doing the job is the important thing. The actual products that come out of the job are secondary.
That's another reason I left my previous jobs. It's okay. It's like we have this thing that we're trying to accomplish, these goals here, and if we just kind of don't, that's also okay. Like, okay, so what's the point?
I was having a discussion with someone the other day, and they had this interesting point that we keep hearing in the news every time they talk about rich people and why we need so many businesses and corporations, whatever. They always use the term job creators. But if you're creating a job, it's one that didn't exist before, so arguably it's something that no one really needed to do.
Going back to economics 101, if there's no demand for a product, why create the product?
So you have to create a bunch of jobs to keep people busy, basically.
To keep them from being horribly poor and possibly rioting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I forget the theorist offhand. I should have had it in front of me, but I wasn't thinking it would go down this particular rabbit hole. There's been a rise in what certain economic theorists have dubbed bullshit jobs.
Yep.
Where you have a system in which you are not allowed to not work. You have to have a job because you need to get paid, because being paid is the only way that you can live. Mm-hmm. But we don't have enough stuff for people to actually do, because we have improved our efficiency and productivity of each individual worker to the point that only a handful of people are needed to do all of the things that we need for hundreds of people to be able to live. So we invent random things for people to do that are unnecessary. And not only are they unnecessary, the people who are doing them know they're unnecessary. Which is one of the reasons that you have such low job satisfaction and high depression, and the amount of people who have office jobs where they know they're not actually accomplishing anything, but they have to because otherwise they're not going to get paid.
You have to, and remember, you have to still have to love your job.
Yes, you have to love your job, and you have to have loyalty to the company. Everyone's seen these viral stories going around of people being fired over, memes that they posted on Facebook about how they don't like their jobs.
Even off the clock, you are subject to the whims of your employer like that.
Which is kind of going back to this very old. At the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, they had this idea. They got their factories together. This was one of the first times that you would have have to get a bunch of people together into a factory to do your kind of assembly line style work, especially in old textile mills, which were some of the original industrial capitals. And you'd get a bunch of people.
Mass-producing fabrics.
And they would all live in your town and go to your church and have your food. You basically wouldn't pay them. You would give them a place to live and stuff to eat in exchange for them working for you. So you would basically get to control these people's entire lives.
And if you did pay them, you could offer company dollars as opposed to actual dollars.
And we later started moving away from that when we had a rise in kind of socialism coming in from Europe and some unionization ideas, but there was still a massive fight against it, but it started to improve, and now it's going back the other way, to the point where I was seeing actual articles last year, people were writing about whether or not Amazon should start making its own money.
I've seen a few online currencies before, like with like a Second Life and things like that. But those are very self-contained in their own universe sort of stuff. Amazon, you don't own our universe, just FYI. Yeah, it's all a little ridiculous. And it's kind of frightening because once you sort of have this total control over your employees like this, and that is becoming becomes the full norm, and it very much right now is, you can basically continue, you can take the abuse that you're already foisting on them right now and increase it as much as you like. Because if they are 100% reliant on the company in order to survive, they can you can ask anything of them, short of suicide, and sometimes even then, it's like, well, if you don't do this, everyone else is going to lose their jobs, so you better go into that reactor and to turn the one thing here. Good luck.
Well, what we have is a, by design, coercive system, because the more you can coerce people into requiring the work, like we keep having this freedom of work choice and whatever idea floating around, but if you stop working and you don't have like some amount of inherited family wealth or capital to back it up, it's basically illegal, because you'll wind up being homeless, which, while we say that's not illegal, everything that you have to do while homeless is illegal.
It's like, well, you have no food, so what are you going to eat? There might be someone in your area that can, provide free food to the homeless, but if you don't got that, then dumpster diving and hoping for the best until someone says, hey, get off, get out of there, otherwise I'll call the cops. And, well, if you're not fast enough, the cops still show up anyway, and suddenly you're in jail for the night, and maybe you're going to be there for a while, maybe you'll be back on the street the next morning, and just becomes a rough life, and suddenly everything you do to even just get by is something that is unallowed for you.
It's been getting to a point where even a bit ago, because everything kind of got upended by current events, but there was a time where they kept talking about how things for workers should start improving, because we wound up with more workers, or we wound up with like more jobs than there were workers, which is usually a time when you have to start offering better incentives to workers because they can more easily change jobs. But this wasn't really happening because we'd created such a system based on these controlling elements that people can't change jobs as easily because we've gotten it so locked down. And the more you can't, and the more you're stuck in a place, the worse they get to treat people, which is better for the company because they get to get more work out of someone for cheaper. But it's worse for all of the people. It's necessarily going to do something bad in there somewhere. We don't know what. People have been saying the system's going to collapse for about 300 years, and it keeps not. But something bad's going to happen to a lot of people.
It keeps mutating and to counteract the most recent sort of counter to it.
And even now, especially right now, you're seeing think pieces and people in the news arguing that going out and having a few thousand people die is nothing as long as it keeps the economy going.
I don't really want to sacrifice my life or the life of my friends and family so some guy can get more money.
Well, that is what's so interesting, because even on news sites that aren't actively saying we should do this, I keep hearing interview points where people say, people are worried because they have to stay inside and can't work, and that's hurting the economy. And no, people aren't worried that they have to stay inside and it's hurting the economy. People are worried they can't work, and that the system we have means that if you can't work, you can't feed yourself.
Yes. Yeah. The economy is what you're worried about, Mr. Interviewed guy there. But the people are actually worried about having a place to live. People are worried about feeding themselves, having basic medical care, especially in the middle of a pandemic. That's kind of important. People are worried about their kids and their family members that are maybe not able to work, even if they wanted to, and that they are they're reliant on them. And this isn't the economy; it's their sustaining of their own livelihood, their ability to even exist.
And you have heard people directly say this, but we have enough food right now. We could feed everyone with it. Most of it is a supply and shipping issue because the food's not going where it needs to go.
Yeah.
But we have enough that we could supply people with food. We have enough. We don't have enough medical care generally, which is part of the problem, but we could give people medical care as well because it's an emergency. But we have had politicians come out and say we can't and shouldn't do that because if we let people have good lives now, they will have no incentive to go back to their horrible, crappy, manipulative jobs later.
Maybe that would be a good thing?
But then the entire system would collapse because the way that we have it set up now, you are completely dependent on low-level exploited workers at the very, very bottom of the system.
So maybe we should be moving to a system that isn't so exploitative so that, people can live lives that don't suck.
But that would be upending the system. The people in charge have benefited from the system, and they are in no hurry to upend the thing that is benefiting them and maintaining their power structure.
So when are we going to get rid of those guys?
I don't know. Probably never. If history is any judge.
Well, I'll give it some thought.
Okay, so should we move from depressing economic theory to misogyny?
Sure. We got 1 for 1 so far. Let's see if we get 2 for 2.
Yeah. This episode hits so many marks. You have the woman who is first being criticized for not being womanly enough, and then later is being criticized for being too docile and womanly.
Yeah.
The whole thing is that she's not behaving like a proper woman because her manners are bad and she thinks she's in charge. Isn't that cute?
Well, on her home planet, she kind of is, apparently. I don't know what a dolmen is, but she seems to be commanding the respect of others around her. And she is used to being the one who tells other people what to do. So, at the start of it, that's just kind of how she's used to her.
The entire way that they've demonstrated this is normal for her society. All of her guards and things are like, why aren't you paying respect to the dolmen?
It's like, I didn't know we needed to. We did not get a protocol book explaining these things. So what do we do?
But they're going to ignore it because they want her to act like them.
So you've now joined our society, so we're going to force you as quickly as possible in order to follow our particular set of etiquettes.
Well, because she's uncivilized. And if you're uncivilized, you're allowed to do whatever the heck you want to someone who is uncivilized because they're not, part of your thing. Civilizing people is the pretext we have used for so many genocides. By not being part of our in-group and being, quote, uncivilized, you are basically not a person in our eyes, and so we're going to be able to enact whatever we feel like in order to change the state of affairs. And if you become civilized to the process, on our definition, which could change over time, depending on what our particular needs are, that's one option. Or if you all die, that's another option. Or if you just labor perpetually under our giant thumb here, that's another option. Which one do you want to choose? And near the beginning, they have her giving orders, which she shouldn't be doing because she's a woman, complaining about her quarters because they are too feminine, eating without a knife and a fork. Oh, the horror.
I do that a lot.
So she's acting unfeminine in the beginning. They keep saying uncivilized, and they keep saying that she needs better manners and things, but they keep coding it as she's not acting as femininely as she should.
Guys, do you maybe not realize that this is how being feminine on her home world might just be? And you're asking her to abandon something that she has as a core part of her identity or something? Or do you just not care?
That's not allowed.
Yeah.
And then they give her a certain amount of unearned power based on crying. Which is very standard. Like, this one is just explicitly stated, but women leveraging their emotions and making men feel uncomfortable with crying is supposed to be a manipulative tactic that women employ. The only reason a woman would ever cry, of course, is to manipulate a man.
And that's kind of bullshit. It's one of those... it's one of those tropes that just won't die, and I really, really hope it does at some point.
It's ascribing any emotion that this person has to a manipulative motive. They don't have their own internal thoughts and experiences or emotions. They are purely exist to manipulate you or the person in the story you were supposed to be empathizing with.
And so you can't trust them. You know, everything they do, you have to second guess, and you have to be willing to ignore their actual signs of pain here to continue to force them into whatever box or mold you want them to be in.
And in this one, they make it actually physical drugging to the point where they say that they use this on the planet, and this is implied, at least, to be how the women on this planet are in charge. It's not a matriarchal society, it is a normal society, but the women have an unfair biological advantage that lets them gain power, even though they probably shouldn't, because, they're women.
I wonder, if in other societies, if it was reversed, the writers would have any problem with it. Probably not.
No, they wouldn't. If the women... if it was presented the same way, like the women are violent and warlike and whatever, and the men had to drug them into docility, the problem would probably be that they were running out of drugs or something, and Kirk would have to go help them make more or teach them how to beat them into submission or whatever he's going to do.
And that would also be quite awful. But
this is at least the second time we have had women have an unearned amount of power over men that's enforced, in this case biologically. In the other episode, it was enforced mechanically with technology. But we've had a couple of episodes where the women are in charge, and it's always like, well, they are, but only because they have this unfair advantage. Otherwise, they wouldn't be.
Yeah, that doesn't fit well with me.
And then, midway through the episode, for no particular reason, she decides that she is in love with Kirk and immediately becomes completely docile, non-entity character who just stands in the background and eventually just does what she's told.
Well, as I'm saying, she's really into spanking, that's all.
Which is such a weird turnaround, considering the entire thing that they set up in the beginning of the episode was that she was going to cry on Kirk and he was going to be under her thrall.
I think a better way, if you're still going to keep these basic mechanics in here, is that she doesn't cry on Kirk, but she gets so frustrated with having to deal with Kirk that she finds herself talking to another crew member and crying on them by accident, because he's like, Kirk's such a jerk face, but we can't have Kirk be explicitly called out like that, so we're stuck with this plot.
But Kirk is shown to be in the right. And everything he's doing, he physically abuses her, and he's shown as being in the right because she's being unreasonable. So anything that he does is automatically right because he's trying to keep her from being savage and uncivilized. But we also have to remember that she is in what she has explicitly stated is an unwanted, forced political marriage. She's basically being kidnapped.
Yeah, she's like, I'm being forced into this. I don't want to be here. So I don't feel like I should listen to any of you assholes.
And any more modern take, we have had this story so many times because we are fascinated with this political marriage idea. Either it's, she's not supposed to want it and then she falls in love with somebody else and they get to run off together and we see the power of true love or whatever. Or she has to stoically accept it as a duty thing, but it's shown as wrong. This one, it's just yeah, you should be doing this, but now you're in love with Kirk, so now you're both going to be hurt, so it's okay, I guess, because Kirk's hurt.
Yeah, so the pain has been shared, and thus we don't have to think about what's actually going on here.
Well, the entire story, like it always is when we have a female character, is centered around Kirk and how he feels about her.
Because now he's in love as well, and he has to get through his emotions and suffer and maybe only have a single tear that doesn't have weird pheromones in it or whatever. But that's all we're going to get out of him, if that.
But he also wasn't affected by it because he's super powerful man who's so obsessed with duty that he is, unswayed by the likes of women.
Yeah. Kirk. Why haven't you been stabbed yet?
He should have been stabbed.
Yes, several times.
Very disappointing to me that he didn't get stabbed.
So maybe this is a good point then to maybe branch off to something a little bit more general that isn't necessarily just straight up awfulness. What is etiquette?
Yeah, well, etiquette and manners, which they spend a lot of time talking about in this frickin' thing, are 100% and extremely cultural. So
this entire episode, they're sort of trying to say that this new way she's supposed to act is just the correct way in general, as opposed to trying to intelligently sort of say, okay, you have a certain way of being in your own society. If we're going to make this work, we're going to have to show you how it is done in this other society. But they just don't kind of do that at all. There's a little bit of okay, you have a martial society, so it's all about discipline, and this is just like that. But that's not really helping at all. It's just sort of we're trying to contrast it now with what you're used to in a weird way that doesn't work at all. Especially doesn't really follow up on it. But it is very much a cultural-based system, and if she's just completely ignorant of it, you shouldn't be getting angry at her.
Well, her society's just wrong, because you will notice it's not that she and or Kirk and the crew have to understand this other system. The other system is 100% aligned with what Kirk already believes to be etiquette. Mm-hmm. So you have the etiquette we are familiar with, which is right, and the etiquette that she is displaying, which is wrong.
So we have to, morph you into this new box here and a new way of being, and we don't have to respect anything about you to get you there.
Up to the point of not even respecting that she is in a leadership position.
Mm-hmm. It's yeah, I'm generally in charge of things, and you are telling me what to do? What? This isn't allowed.
Imagine if you had a diplomatic mission to boat a foreign leader to another country, and you show up and they get on board and you go, okay, go scrub the deck now. And they're like, oh, how could you? It's what, you think you're in charge? I
would like to have at least a little respect as a passenger.
She doesn't deserve respect because she's shown to be domineering, but as a woman.
And we can't have that in the 60s. Nope.
But yes, etiquette is so incredibly cultural. You have to have guides to these things. There are manners and etiquette in other countries that if either of us went to another country, we'd be seen as incredibly rude for acting in a way that it was supposed to be incredibly polite here.
It's you used the wrong fork here, or you're not supposed to shake people's hand with that hand. Sorry.
Yeah, don't shake people's hand. Don't touch people in this way. Don't use this hand when you're eating something. There are plenty of rules, and they vary by country because, of course, different cultures are going to have different ways that etiquette and manners evolve.
Oh, I forget what it's from, but I remember this was used as an example of this sort of thing. One of my college classes back in the day. I forget which culture it was, but there's basically a white guy coming into a family that is, first generation American, and the food's laid out and great, and he's been doing his best to sort of integrate and be respectful. But the mom says the food's not all that great, and he's like, but no, it's fine. It just needs a little salt. And it's sort of a big faux pas because the mom was more saying that because that's just sort of how she was brought up to always sort of downplay the quality of the food so people will be more surprised by how good it is. But to say that it's great, but it still needs improvement, I'm going to put the salt on it. It's just like, well, you just slapped me in the face, thanks. But yeah, it was ignorance on his part, but it is still one of those things that was part of the social tapestry that he's interacting with. And there isn't a right way or a wrong way, in the general sense to to have one's manners, etiquette, whatever. But in specific situations with the specific people that are going to be practicing their culture as they understand it, it is going to be causing instances of rude and offense. And so, in the general sense, yeah, you can sort of make etiquette whatever you feel like, but generally it's a good idea to, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, as they say.
Yeah, you get into a particular thing, especially, like, it's always been a bit of a thing, especially in America, but you get into it more in this era as we were entering more and more globalization, that everyone's fine. We're fine with, the country of immigrants sort of thing, and people from other places, and we want to go get along with everyone. It's great how we can get along with everyone, as long as everyone's American.
Yep. Convert, or you are a foreign element that must be stamped out or something.
This was the entire sort of cultural export idea, which is something that they made a concerted effort of. They were like shipping blue jeans to Russia and things, pretty well-known schemes like that. Or like culturally exporting American values was something that they were actively working on at the time.
Yeah. McWorld.
So this episode is very much presenting you with, here is one planet that has American values, as seen by table manners mostly.
Yeah.
And here is another planet that does not have American values. They have the stereotypical barbarian thing where they eat with their hands and drink out of a bottle.
Sometimes it's fun to drink out of the bottle.
And being, demanding honor to their leaders, because, that is another slight American thing. You're supposed to show a certain amount of respect to leadership, but you're not supposed to treat them with honor because, they're basically the same as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that they're presenting is like a bunch of stereotypes that they had about, like, basically it's kind of the Klingon thing that they do, where they take a bunch of bad stereotypes about kind of Middle Eastern-y nations and
just
fold them into this.
Yeah, just mix them around a bit and then come out and it's like, oh, they're bad people here. Yeah, be afraid.
Not all places do eat with knives and forks and plates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of places, like a lot of countries, it's very, very common for you to not have silverware. You eat with bread.
Yeah.
Or something similar.
You sort of use that as a spoon or to absorb like a soup or something like that, and you got like chopsticks as an option, different sort of utensils in various places, and or just your hands, that's fine.
It's very fascinating. There's this restaurant I love that I hope stays open that is Nigerian, and it you eat with like a sort of paste stuff. It's like this bready kind of sticky paste, and you like dip it in soups and things. It's great. So there's all kinds of things that are just culturally acceptable in, different places. But you have to do it our way. And I don't know, it's just the fact that she's presented the entire episode is wrong. They start treating her badly the second she comes on board, and then they use her being upset at being treated badly as a justification for treating her badly.
You're upset about the abuse we've heaped on you, so we're going to heap more on it. No wonder she went off to sort of study this stuff. Etiquette was all I had really at the end there, so I guess I could break it down to a little bit about like different types of manners, but maybe for another time.
Oh yeah, there's enough depressing. Like we keep just circling back to how depressingly they treated people in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should maybe just move on and say it's time for the galaxy's favorite game show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Galaxy's favorite game show. Our various contestants have been racking up a few points this week. We got a few awards to hand out, so let's get to it. The first award is the Marriage is Suffering Award, which goes to Elaan, as she really doesn't want to get hitched to one of those soft dweebs over there. It would just be the worst. So what did she win, Gepwin?
Elaan wins a divorce attorney and some coupons. It's like, doesn't have to be permanent anymore. That was a whole thing in the 70s.
Elaan, you can be you could forage on your own. You don't need no Troyan leadership guy person to marry. You can do your own thing. It's good on you. Good luck. Our second award, our second prize, is the TV Love Story prize, which goes to Kirk and the Enterprise, because their love affair will continue onward always despite the temptations of alien lady tears and whatever bizarre mechanics of the week that show up this week. What do they win, Gepwin?
They win one of those good old rom-com setups. One's the captain, one's an emotionless alien, and one's a several million-ton spaceship.
Coming next week on TBS. Our third prize is the Goa'uld Style Award, which goes to the Elysians as a group for their glamorous ways while being kind of a little bit of control freaks, but so is everybody else on this show, really. And also the whole biological mind influencing thing. What do they win, Gepwin?
They win something to give everyone else, which is some dang biology textbooks, because, this is just how this species mating works. Stop moralizing the way other species, procreate. Yeah,
this is just how they go, guys. You should be used to weird aliens by this point. Why is this so hard to understand? Our final one of the week is the Incompetent Guest Star Prize, which goes to Ambassador Petrie for basically being the worst sort of ambassador we've run into on this show so far, which is kind of saying something. Yeah, this dude's so bad at his job, he gets himself stabbed. What does he win, Gepwin?
Petrie gets to have a nice post as our United States ambassador to the UN, because seems like that kind of guy.
Probably do better than some of our recent ones. Ooh. Take it away, Gepwin. I'm running out of steam.
All right, thank you for the contestants, thank you for all of the prizes, and thank you for joining us on the Galaxy's favorite game show!
So next week.
Yeah, I've not heard of this. Next week is an episode called Whom Gods Destroy.
I remember bits and pieces of this one, and I don't remember what all happens, but there's somebody with antenna in it, so,
This is like the fourth episode in a row where I've seen this little thing on the Wikipedia page that says not aired on the BBC because of sadistic plot elements.
Oh no.
And a risque dance performance. Oh.
I'm seeing a green lady in the thingamajig here.
Great. Oh no. Arrives on a planet that is home to a Federation facility for the criminally insane.
So, we're going to talk about asylums again, aren't we?
Yeah, great. Oh, Orion female. One of the inmates is an Orion female. Hooray.
Oh, yeah. So that's going to be a thing.
Played by an American ballet dancer.
Oh, at least they know how to dance.
Oh, best known for her role as Batgirl in a 1960s television series.
Oh, nice.
It's Batgirl.
Batgirl
Gets to do a risque dance in green makeup.
But not in the Batgirl outfit. Anyway.
Yeah, this seems to be some sort of inmates have taken over the asylum situation.
That could let us talk about capitalism in the modern era again.
Yay!
Because that's how it feels right now.
Always a crowd pleaser.
Oh, well, so I guess we got that one to look forward to for next week.
Yep. So y'all get to see what we have to say about another episode, about another asylum for the criminally insane, next week on Watchers of Tomorrow.
Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Kirk is back in the slammer! Hooray! You have have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.